The sound of a silver spoon tapping against crystal glass is supposed to signal a celebration. It is supposed to be a joyous summons, calling for silence so that love can be proclaimed. But for me, standing in the back of the ballroom, hidden in the shadows of a massive floral arrangement that probably cost more than my rent, that sound was a trigger. It sounded like the toll of a funeral bell. It was the sound of my execution. My father stood at the head table, the microphone gripped tightly in his hand, his knuckles white. He looked distinguished in his tuxedo, the picture of a benevolent patriarch. But I knew the venom that coursed through his veins. I could see the glint in his eyes as he scanned the room, soaking in the admiration of the 300 guests. The air smelled of expensive lilies and roast duck, a thick, suffocating perfume of wealth that made my stomach churn. "Ladies and gentlemen," my father's voice boomed, smooth as silk, "thank you all for coming to celebrate my daughter, Jessica, and her new husband, Mark. Looking at her today, radiant and successful, a partner at one of the city's top firms, I am reminded of what true excellence looks like." He paused for effect. The room was silent. I felt the sweat prickling on the back of my neck. I knew what was coming. It was the same script he had been reading from since I was 6 years old. "It is a relief," he continued, his tone shifting slightly, dropping an octave into mock solemnity. "It is a relief to see that at least one of my children has made something of themselves. You know, raising children is a gamble. Sometimes you get a diamond like Jessica." He gestured to my sister, who sat there preening, her smile tight and smug. "And sometimes, well, sometimes you get a stone that refuses to be polished." "Where is he?" "Liam." The spotlight, guided by some cruel instruction given beforehand, swept across the room and landed squarely on me. I was blinded for a second, blinking against the harsh glare. The murmur of the crowd was instant. 300 heads turned. I could hear the whispers like the hissing of snakes. "That's the brother? The failure? Look at his suit, it looks off the rack." "There he is," my father laughed, a cold, dry sound. "Our little project. I told Jessica she shouldn't have invited him." I said, "Why bring the black sheep to a white wedding?" But Jessica has a big heart. She wanted her brother to see what real success looks like. Maybe it would inspire him to stop whatever it is he does. Fixing cars? Flipping burgers? I honestly lose track of his mediocrity. Laughter. It rippled through the room. Not nervous laughter, but genuine, mocking amusement. My mother, sitting next to my father, didn't look down in shame. She raised her glass to me, a cruel smirk playing on her lips. "To Jessica," my father shouted, "the child we are actually proud to call a Swanson." "To Jessica," the crowd roared. I stood there frozen. My hands were clenched so tight inside my pockets that my fingernails were digging into my palms, drawing blood. The humiliation wasn't just mental, it was physical. It felt like a band of iron tightening around my chest. I wanted to scream. I wanted to flip the table. But I did nothing. I just swallowed the bile rising in my throat and forced a smile that felt like a crack in a porcelain mask. To understand why I didn't storm out, why I stood there and took the abuse like a beaten dog, you have to understand the history. You have to understand that this wasn't a one-time event. This was the culmination of 25 years of systematic destruction. My memory drifted back, away from the clinking glasses, to the cold interior of our childhood home. I was 10. It was Christmas morning. Under the tree, the pile of gifts was a mountain of gold and red paper. Jessica, 2 years younger than me, was tearing into boxes. A new bicycle, a gaming console, a designer coat. I sat with one small wrapped box in my lap. "Open it, Liam," my mother had said, sipping her morning mimosa. "Don't be ungrateful." I opened it. It was a set of textbooks, advanced mathematics for high schoolers. I was 10. "We need you to focus," my father had said, not looking up from his newspaper. "Jessica has natural charm. She's going to rule the world with her personality. You need to work harder. You're slow, Liam. We're just trying to fix you." "I got straight A's this year," I had whispered. "In a public school," my mother scoffed. "That hardly counts. Jessica got into the private academy. That's achievement. You're just existing." That was the narrative. Jessica was the golden child. I was the scapegoat. Every success I had was minimized. Every failure was magnified and broadcast to the family. When I made the varsity soccer team, they didn't come to the games because Jessica had dance practice. When I got into a state university on a full academic scholarship, my father refused to co-sign the lease for my apartment because he said I would probably drop out and waste his credit score. "If you want to leave this house," he had told me when I was 18, standing in the foyer of the mansion I was never allowed to feel at home in, "you do it on your own. No handouts for failures. We're saving our resources for the child, who will actually give us a return on investment." So I left. I packed my bags and I vanished into the city. I didn't argue. I didn't beg. I cut myself off. For 7 years, I lived in a studio apartment the size of a closet. I worked days in a logistics warehouse and nights waiting tables. To them, to my parents and Jessica, I was a ghost who occasionally showed up at holidays to be mocked. They assumed my silence was shame. They assumed my cheap car and off-the-rack suits were signs of poverty. They didn't know about the nights I spent coding. They didn't know about the logistics software I developed during those long shifts at the warehouse to optimize shipping routes. They didn't know I had sold the patent to a global shipping conglomerate 6 months ago. They didn't know that the failure standing in the back of the wedding hall, being laughed at by 300 strangers, currently had a bank balance that could buy this entire venue, burn it down, and rebuild it without making a dent in his portfolio. I had kept it a secret. A test. A desperate, pathetic test to see if they could love me without the money. If they could treat me with basic human dignity just because I was their son. My father's toast ended, and the music swelled. Jessica walked by me, her silk dress rustling like dry leaves. She stopped, leaning in close, her breath smelling of expensive champagne. "Thanks for coming, Liam," she whispered, her voice dripping with poison. "Dad was right, though. You really bring the property value down just by standing here. Try not to eat too much of the buffet, okay? I'd hate for the guests to think we're feeding the homeless." She laughed and glided away, melting into the arms of her new husband. I watched her go. The sadness I had carried for 20 years finally evaporated. It was replaced by something colder, harder. A vibration buzzed in my pocket. Not my phone. It was the pager I had given to the only other person in this room who knew the truth. The heavy oak doors at the entrance of the ballroom creaked open. The room went quiet, not out of respect, but out of confusion. A man walked in. He didn't fit the wedding aesthetic. He was wearing a charcoal gray suit that was tailored to perfection, carrying a leather briefcase that looked heavy. He wasn't a guest. He was a shark. It was Mr. Sterling, the family lawyer. But he wasn't here for my father. He scanned the room, ignoring my father's confused wave from the head table. His eyes locked onto mine. He gave a sharp, professional nod and began to walk straight toward me, cutting through the dance floor like a knife. My father's voice rang out over the microphone, uncertain now. "Mr. Sterling? What are you doing here? We aren't discussing the merger until Monday." Mr. Sterling didn't stop. He didn't even look at my father. He walked right up to me, the failure in the corner, and spoke loud enough for the nearby tables to hear. "Mr. Swanson," Sterling said, his voice projecting clearly, "I apologize for the interruption, but the transfer is complete. The board needs your final signature on the acquisition of the family estate. And, regarding the $50 million inheritance from your late grandmother that your parents tried to bury, we found the documents." The silence that followed wasn't just quiet. It was a vacuum. For 3 seconds, the only sound in the room was the high-pitched whine of microphone feedback. My father had dropped the mic. It rolled across the floor of the stage, a jarring thump-thump screech that echoed the sudden chaotic rhythm of his heart. "What did you say?" My father didn't use the microphone this time. He didn't need to. His voice was a guttural roar, stripped of its polished veneer. He scrambled down the stairs of the stage, almost tripping over his own expensive Italian shoes. "Sterling, have you lost your mind? You're fired. Get out of my daughter's wedding." Mr. Sterling didn't flinch. He didn't even blink. He simply adjusted his glasses and opened the thick leather folder he was holding. The sound of the heavy paper turning was crisp and authoritative. "You cannot fire me, Mr. Swanson," Sterling said, his voice calm, cutting through my father's panic like a scalpel. "I was never working for you. I was retained by the estate of Eleanor Swanson, your late mother. My mother is dead, my father spat, his face turning a dangerous shade of purple. He was close now, standing toe-to-toe with the lawyer, ignoring me completely. I was still the ghost to him, just a bystander in his drama. She died 5 years ago. Her assets were settled. Were they? I spoke up. My voice wasn't loud. I didn't shout. I used the voice I used in boardrooms when I was acquiring a failing competitor. Low, steady, final. My father whipped his head around. For the first time in my life, he looked at me with confusion instead of disdain. What are you babbling about, Liam? My mother hissed, rushing over to join the fray. Her face was pale beneath her heavy makeup. She clutched her pearl necklace as if it were a rosary. Don't ruin this. Don't you dare ruin this for Jessica. Just leave. Go back to your little life. I'm not going anywhere, Mother, I said, stepping forward. I took the document from Sterling's hand. And neither are you. Not until you hear this. I looked at the crowd. The guests were leaning in. The waiters had stopped serving the cake. The band had lowered their instruments. This was better than the wedding. This was a public execution, and human nature can't resist a spectacle. Grandmother knew, I said, looking directly at my father. She knew you were leveraging the company accounts to fund your lifestyle. She knew you were draining the family trust to pay for Jessica's private schools, her cars, this wedding, while you let me take out student loans. That's a lie. Jessica shrieked from the head table. She stood up, knocking over her champagne glass. It shattered, the liquid spreading like a bloodstain on the white tablecloth. Daddy, tell him to shut up. He's just jealous. He's always been jealous. Read the addendum, Mr. Sterling, I commanded. Sterling cleared his throat. Clause 4B of the last will and testament of Eleanor Swanson. In the event that my son, Robert Swanson, demonstrates financial irresponsibility or moral failure in the treatment of his kin, the entirety of the family trust, previously hidden under the Shell Corporation Swan Holdings, shall bypass him completely. It shall be awarded to the grandchild who demonstrates self-sufficiency and integrity. Sterling looked up over his spectacles. The trust was set to mature yesterday. It is valued at $52 million post-tax. My father laughed. It was a manic, breathless sound. And you think Liam is the one? He waits tables. He lives in a dump. I live where I chose to live, I said, my voice hardening. And I don't wait tables anymore, Dad. I haven't for a long time. While you were busy mocking me for fixing cars and flipping burgers, I built an algorithmic logistics platform. Nexus Logistics. Does that ring a bell? The color didn't just drain from my father's face. It vanished. He staggered back as if I had punched him. Nexus, he whispered. We use Nexus software. Every shipping company in the state uses Nexus. I know, I said cold. I own it. I sold the licensing rights last year, but I kept the majority share. And do you know what I did with the profits, Dad? I took a step closer to him. He looked smaller now. The benevolent patriarch was gone, replaced by a terrified old man. I started buying debt, I said. Distressed assets. High-risk loans. Specifically yours. My mother let out a small, strangled whimper. She reached out and grabbed my father's arm to steady herself. You bought our mortgage? She asked, her voice trembling. Not just the mortgage, Mom, I said. I bought the business loans. The lines of credit you used to pay for the summer house. The loans you took out to pay for this wedding because you're actually broke. I own it all. I am the bank. And you are in default. The revelation hit the room like a shockwave. I could hear the whispers exploding into gasps. Broke? The Swansons are broke? The son owns their debt? Jessica ran down from the stage, her heavy dress bunching up in her hands. She pushed past our father and grabbed my lapels. Her face was twisted in ugly, desperate rage. You can't do this, she screamed, shaking me. This is my day. You're lying. Make him stop, Mark. She looked back at her new husband, but Mark was slowly backing away, looking at his phone, probably checking the stock market or calling his own lawyer. Get your hands off me, I said, peeling her fingers off my suit. I brushed the lapel where she had touched me. This is a $5,000 suit, Jessica. You can't afford the dry cleaning bill. Liam, please. My mother's tone shifted instantly. It was the most terrifying transformation yet. Her face softened, her eyes welled with fake tears. She reached out a hand, trembling, trying to stroke my cheek. Sweetheart, why didn't you tell us? We were so worried about you. We pushed you because we wanted you to succeed. We knew you had it in you. We were just using tough love. Tough love. I laughed. It was a dark, hollow sound that echoed off the high ceilings. When I was 16, I had pneumonia. You told me to stop coughing because it was annoying you while you watched TV. You didn't take me to the hospital until I passed out. That wasn't love. That was neglect. I turned to Mr. Sterling. Show them the other document. Sterling pulled out a single sheet of paper. It was a foreclosure notice. This, Sterling announced, holding it up, is a notice of immediate foreclosure on the Swanson estate. Since the loans are held privately by Mr. Liam Swanson, he has exercised his right to call in the debt immediately due to breach of character clauses inherent in the original family bylaws. You're kicking us out? My father's voice was barely a whisper. But where will we go? I don't know, I said, shrugging. Maybe you can find a nice studio apartment. I hear they build character. Liam, you can't, my mother wailed, falling to her knees. It was a theatrical performance, but the fear in her eyes was real. We're your family. Family supports each other. Family. I looked down at her. 10 minutes ago, I was a worthless stone. I was a project. I was a mistake. You invited me here to be a prop, to make Jessica look brighter by comparison. Well, look at her now. I pointed at Jessica. She was sitting on the floor, sobbing into her hands, mascara running down her face in black streaks. Her husband, Mark, was nowhere to be seen. He had slipped out the side door. The wedding is over, I announced to the room. The venue has been paid for by my father's credit card, which I just canceled 5 minutes ago. I suggest you all eat the cake quickly. The caterers are packing up. The chaos that ensued was absolute. But I wasn't done. There was one last twist of the knife. One last secret that grandmother Eleanor had left for me to use only in case of emergency. Oh, and Dad, I called out as he stared blankly at the floor. He looked up, his eyes dead. There's one more thing about the company, I said, smiling. Mr. Sterling found the audit logs, the illegal offshore accounts, the tax evasion schemes you set up in the Cayman Islands under Jessica's name. Jessica's head snapped up. What? I didn't turn them into the IRS, I said softly, checking my watch. Yet. I gave you a 24-hour window. It started when I walked into this room. My father's face went from pale to gray. He clutched his chest. You have 23 hours and 40 minutes to confess, I said, or I hand the hard drive to the authorities. And Jessica goes down with you as a co-conspirator. The silence that followed my ultimatum was heavy, broken only by the sound of expensive cutlery being gently set down by guests who suddenly realized they had urgent appointments elsewhere. The exodus began slowly, then all at once. It was a masterclass in social abandonment. Mark, my sister's husband of exactly 3 hours, was the first to reach the exit. Mark! Jessica screamed, scrambling up from the floor, her dress stained with wine and tears. Where are you going? Do something. Fight him. Mark turned at the door. He didn't look angry. He looked calculated. I signed a prenup, Jessica. It says the marriage is void if there is undisclosed financial liability exceeding $1 million. Your brother just said you're on the hook for tax fraud. He shrugged, checking his watch. I'm calling my lawyer. Don't contact me. The door slammed shut. The sound echoed like a gunshot. Jessica collapsed again, this time in genuine heaving sobs. But nobody moved to comfort her. My mother was too busy hyperventilating into a napkin, and my father was staring at his hands as if they belonged to a stranger. I buttoned my jacket. The air in the room felt lighter, cleaner. The suffocating smell of lilies and hypocrisy was gone, replaced by the cold, sharp scent of justice. You have the paperwork, Mr. Sterling? I asked. Everything is prepared, Mr. Swanson, Sterling replied, snapping his briefcase shut. The eviction team is on standby for the estate. We'll give them Shall we say until Monday morning to vacate? Monday is generous, I said, looking at my parents one last time. But I'm feeling generous. Enjoy the weekend. It's the last one you'll spend as Swansons of Highgate Manor. I turned to walk away, but my father's voice stopped me. It was weak, a rasping shadow of the boom that had commanded the room earlier. Liam, please. How do we fix this? How much do you want? I can work for you. I can consult. I know the industry. I stopped and looked back over my shoulder. You don't know the industry, Dad. You know how to bully people. And I don't hire bullies. I fire them. I walked out of the ballroom, the heavy doors swinging shut behind me, muffling the sounds of my family's destruction. As I stepped out into the cool night air, I pulled my phone from my pocket. I had one notification. It was a text from my bank. Deposit confirmed, $52,400,000. I didn't smile. I didn't cheer. I just took a deep breath, looked up at the stars, and finally, for the first time in 25 years, I felt light. Epilogue. 8 months later. They say money can't buy happiness, but it can certainly buy peace of mind. And more importantly, it can buy distance. I sat on the terrace of my new home, overlooking the Pacific Ocean. The only sound was the rhythmic crashing of waves against the cliffs below. On the table in front of me was a tablet displaying a news article. Former socialite family auctions remaining assets in bankruptcy settlement. The photo showed my childhood home, the mansion where I was treated like a servant, being sold to a tech billionaire who planned to bulldoze it and build a minimalist retreat. The irony wasn't lost on me. The article detailed the fall of the Swanson empire. My father had avoided prison by liquidating every single asset. He had to pay the IRS fines and the penalties for the offshore accounts. He was currently living in a 2-bedroom apartment in the industrial district, working as a mid-level manager at a trucking company, a company that was a subsidiary of Nexus Logistics. He was working for me, though he would never know it. I made sure his employee file was flagged so he would never be promoted. My mother had moved in with her sister in Ohio, a woman she had mocked for being middle class for 30 years. I heard through the grapevine that she spends her days clipping coupons and complaining about the humidity. And Jessica? I took a sip of my espresso and scrolled down. There was a small sidebar story. Local waitress causes scene at diner. Jessica hadn't handled the divorce well. Mark had taken the condo, the car, and the dog. With her reputation destroyed by the fraud allegations, no law firm would touch her. She was currently working the lunch shift at a diner 3 towns over. Last week she tried to call me. It was a blocked number, but I knew it was her. She left a voicemail. Liam, it's Jess. Look, I'm really struggling here. I can't make rent. Mom won't help. I know we had our differences, but I'm your sister. You have $50 million. Can't you just spare $5,000? Please. I'm begging you. I listened to it twice. I thought about the Christmas morning with the math textbooks. I thought about the wedding toast where she laughed while our father called me worthless. I thought about the years of tough love. I didn't block the number. I simply deleted the voicemail. I stood up and walked to the edge of the terrace. My phone buzzed. It was an email from the scholarship fund I had set up in grandmother Eleanor's name. Subject: First 50 recipients selected. 50 kids from broken homes, kids who were told they weren't good enough, kids who were the black sheep, were getting full rides to college. I smiled. The wind off the ocean was cold, but I had never felt warmer. Karma doesn't always show up on time, but when she does, she brings the whole check. And in my case, the check cleared.